Hello everyone. I just came in from riding and a lesson and boy is it hot. So it felt good to jump in the shower and now I'm going to do my weekly Q&A podcast, and this podcast is designed for my online coaching group that started in 2020. It's a private group on Facebook, so all of you watching are probably members. If anybody's watching that's not a member, you can join Team TLC by going to tlcbarrels.com and reaching out to me, and I'd be happy to tell you a little bit more about my program and get you set up for clinics, lessons, or this online coaching group. So it is August 14th of 2025, and this is my 6th YouTube video for the Q&A, but it's actually episode 261, the first 250 some podcasts that you can find on Apple and Spotify. And I just wanted to change it up and add it to my YouTube channel. I am going to keep doing the podcast. I thought I was just going to switch it over here and maybe once a month do the podcast on Spotify and Apple, but I got a lot of feedback from the members out of state that it's just easier for them to get it on their Apple podcast. So I don't mind keeping doing it. I just got to figure out how to do both at once, and that'll save me some time. And anyways, so whatever I can do to make my clients happy, I'm going to try to do that. So anyhow, today I am going to talk about burnout as a topic, and we have some really great questions to answer as well. But burnout, I think, is a really real thing for most people. So that's going to be a fun topic to cover today as well. And last week I told you I was going to tell you a little bit, a story each week about my horses and how I got my dream started 30 some years ago. Last week I shared how it started with a pony when I was just 8 years old. But this week I'm going to share my first heart horse and my first horse that I trained as a professional in the early 90s. Her name is Callie, and that's her there. This is her in Florida, but I bought her in 92 or 93 in Colorado, and our first year of competition was actually 94 for our first competition year of awards, and she won me a 2D title championship with the MBHA, and then also with the Colorado Barrel Racers Association, the novice program. And then this is a picture of her competing at a regional show, if you can see that. I think so, but I have a ton of pictures of her. But she was my first heart horse, my first best friend. I joke about how I got her when I was in California. I think my goal was always in the back of my mind to get back into horses, but you know how it is when you're going off for college. You don't always stay with the horses. But if I think back to what brought me the most joy, when I started doing college, I would take business and marketing classes and advertising classes, things like that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do career-wise. I would go before school. I'd go and put horses on the treadmill, race horses, at a thoroughbred farm in Norco, California. I'd go put them on the aqua pool, the treadmill with water. I put them on that, put them on the hot walker. I'd wrap their legs, put them back in their stalls, give them hand feed, all before I'd go back to school in the morning. And I had a horse. My mom brought my horse down, and I kept her where I rented in my backyard there, and rode her, mostly just trail road, because again, working and school and everything, and social life when you're young. So didn't really do much then. But when we got married, I needed to get things going, and I met my husband. We were together every day for 2 years and lived now by my father near Manhattan Beach while I was trying to get my career going at that time in the corporate world. And when we lived there, I did inside sales and outside sales, Apple One employment services, selling, people basically, and then for sales jobs, for secretary jobs. So long story short, we got married, moved to Colorado. He got real busy with corporate world, and I wanted to take our Hawaii, Honolulu honeymoon money and buy a horse with it, because we didn't have time to do the honeymoon. He was working and we were in a new state anyways, moving away from all of my family. We knew nobody when we got there. It was just us, his career, and me figuring out what I was going to do. So I went ahead and I worked at a couple different things at that time, but in the back of my mind, I knew we wanted to have a child eventually. I also knew that my son was born in 97, but this is like 92. But I worked a couple of different jobs, and I got my mare Callie. And in the back of my mind, I really wanted to have my horses in my backyard. We were just renting at the time. She was being boarded. But I really was eager to, get things going. So I was training her. She's a Sunny D-Bar and Skipper W. She was actually registered paint and green broke at 5 years old, had two babies by her side uh, already, a baby by her side at this time, and had already had a baby prior. So bred at 3, bred at 4. She's 5 and she's green broke. So they sold the baby and I bought her separate. And she had regular papers, Overo paint horse, but knew nothing. So I just started finishing her basics and then eventually putting her on the barrel pattern. And then by then we bought our home. And again, I was working regular city job and I just decided, hey, this is what I want to do. So slowly with training her and doing lessons and boarding horses and eventually training and such, things got going. And she really made my dreams come true that first year. The second year, she actually put me in the 1D a few times, but mostly we were running against really tough horses, Chrissy Peterson and Bozo, Marlene Edelman's Black Stallion, Kelly Yates Firewater Fiesta. I mean, anytime you went somewhere, there was really nice NFR level horses in Colorado that you're competing against. But I wanted to learn from everybody. I took lessons with Kelly Conrado, Kelly Yates, Becky Carson, Carol Ellis, Ed Wright came to town, Martha Josie came to town, just anybody and everybody, along with John Lyons for horsemanship and all of that. So, but Callie was my heart horse, and I learned valuable lessons with her. And this is why I'm sharing this with you. So in the back of my mind, I'm 25 years old. I'm wanting to start my horse training business, train my own barrel horses. She wins me that first year, novice horse. But the thing was, I was winning first. I was winning the saddle in the novice horse for the Colorado barrel horses. But then they didn't have, you could barrel race during the week. They had certain barrel races approved 7 days a week. And there was barrel races 7 days a week. There was no cap on how many runs you can make. And nowadays, I would tell people on a novice horse, maybe 2 runs a month, or 1 max a week. But back then, people were going to 1 during the week and 1 on the weekends on novice horses. And they didn't call it futurity then. It was just novice horse. And I was winning the saddle and my mare started getting sore. I'd take her to 1 during the week and 1 on the weekend. She's a novice horse. I think she was 6 at this point. So I put a year of training in her basics and barrels and started entering her. And she was just such a good horse. And my friends always joke that, wow, she wins you a check every weekend. But you have to remember, in Colorado back then, there was only 50 going to the district shows when NBHA started and like 250 at the state show. And then when I did go to state with her, she put me in the 1D top 5. I have awards for that. But she was mostly, a certain set time off of like the 2D off of Bozo and Firewater Fiesta and stuff. But again, it was our novice year. We're both learning. It's my first horse I trained myself as an adult. And but I was so proud of her. She won so much for me. And she was just my best friend. Her and my Rottweiler, Shelby. My husband was working. He'd go with us on the weekends. And it was just a time when I just loved this horse so much. And when I finally had to retire her, she gave me 10 full years of competition. She did have to be retired at 15, sadly. 15 or 16, 10 years, so probably 16. And that was because I think all her nutrition probably went to those babies. She was a halter. They showed her halter and she won a lot. And then her babies were successful. But I think that's why she broke down a little bit earlier too. And also my mare Belle kicked her in the knee in the last year, but she had already had like a suspensory that was not holding elasticity in the back hind, and she had arthritis in her knees and hocks, and she did break down a little sooner. But looking back, my point being is I was going too much on her novice year, and she started to have an alley issue. And I've never had alley issues on any of my horses since, because I learned a valuable lesson. She was telling me she was sore, and sure enough, my vet checked her, and she was sore in the hocks and the back. Which came first? Who knows? Maybe compensation. Sore hocks made her back sore. So after she was treated, I brought her back slow, and I fell to 3rd place in the standings. no saddle, no buckle, down to third place. And the other girls are still hauling hard. And so anyhow, long story short, she never had Allie Sauer again. I finished the year. I backed off, one a week max, and she won I think it was third in the novice horse team, or top 5 something. I have a plaque up there for it, but she did really well considering we backed off, and she never had a gait issue again after that. And of course, as I learned in time, I had more horses. I got Cash after that, and I'll talk about him next week. But Callie, I started rotating my horses. They were only making 2 or 3 runs a month, and they took turns, and but taught me a valuable lesson that you don't go after saddles and buckles, that ride with heart, putting the horse first. But again, it was my first horse I trained. I didn't know any better. I knew, though, she was telling me there was an issue. And I was glad that I got her vet checked. I was glad I gave her the time it took to get her better. So that's about putting the horse first, not caring about the saddle or buckle. And that's something 33 years later, I still put first. I say, hey, if you love the horse, you put the horse first. And it's easy to love your horse when they're winning. But do you love your horse when they're a horse that won't be 1D or bust for you? People don't always love them the same if that's not meeting their personal goals. So keep that in mind. And I just wanted to share that with you. She made so many of my dreams come true. I took her when we moved to Louisiana, and then of course Florida. And then she competed a little bit in Florida before she was retired. So I was 8 years in Colorado, and then a year in Louisiana, and then Florida since 2001. But anyhow, she's just an awesome mare. She brought so many dreams for me, true buckles and year-end championships. And like I said, she was in the top 5 in state finals and did well at regionals, which the other photo was, and just an awesome mare. And while she was little, she was, like I said, Skipper W, Sunny D Bart. She was 15 hands, stout, but she could turn, and she had a lot of try. And that was the difference between Cash, my 16-hand horse. He was fast between the barrels, but she could turn quicker than him. So they ran about the same times. But anyhow, I always wanted her to be up close to the Bozo and Fiesta times more, but those were some serious competition in those days. And like I said, consistently, when I moved to Florida, though, I was shocked. The district shows had 100 to 150, and the state show had 800, 900. So it was amazing to me how many more numbers in Florida versus when I left in 99 from Colorado. So not that there was any less competition in Colorado, many NFR horses there, but just less numbers at the time. So I'm sure the numbers have increased now. But anyway, so that's my little story I wanted to share with you. And I'm going to go ahead and get into the questions and topic now. But let's see here. Don't forget about the challenge this month. Because August seems to be a heat wave everywhere in the United States, I'm saying send me a video of you doing groundwork. It can be lunging, it can be face flexing, it can be desensitizing, yielding body parts, side passing, whatever. Liberty work, send it in and you'll get entered into the drawing challenge for skill this month. Or no stirrup riding, that's hard for me to say. So do that as well. And then for mindset, you're writing in your journal whether your difference between your writing down the difference between your trainer's mindset when you're really focused on what your horse is thinking and what your cues mean to them and how things are feeling and what you want to work on, and versus your competition mindset when you're there and you're trying to be in the moment and present. So write that down so you have a clear understanding of what that should mean to you. And then remember, you can send in 1 video per week, training or competition, for me to review. A side-by-side only counts as 1, or you can do 4 per month. If you need to get more done, you can pay $5 extra per video. And also let me know if it's a personal best or if you want to keep it private and not share it in the group. That's perfectly fine. And then you can send it Coach Now, Facebook Messenger, or even an email if you have to. Just not text message. That comes out blurry for some reason. And then what else? Oh, well, let's see. Remember just to tell me the name of the arena, winning time, your time, and any specific concerns as well. And always tell me if you have a personal best so I enter you in that drawing too. So the questions for this week. One of the most, I want to make a comment first, but one of the most common mistakes I see in novice riders is they want to turn at the shoulder and they use too much hands and not enough seat and leg. So if you fall in that category, really work on that, because it can develop so many bad habits with your horses of hitting barrels or blowing out wide on turns. Learn to ride by riding in the hole, riding to your spots, sitting through your turns, using your body, your seat, your legs, and being light-handed. That's the most common mistake I see with novice riders, is being handsy and turning at their shoulders, looking in at the barrel in anticipation. So, okay, so the question is, can a rider make a 3D horse a 1D horse, or a 1D horse a 3D horse? So the answer to that really is yes and no. And what I mean by that is not all horses have 1D speed. Just like I said, there's horses that are like NFR level, or they're great horses out there. Great horses make great trainers. Good horses make good trainers. I've had really good horses in my life that I've picked and trained myself, but I've never had that one great horse that's like Sarah and Bling from here in Georgia that can win at super shows and rodeo, and NFR. Or, horses that like Cassie with Jarvis, or Adios, or, you think of all those special horses, Bozo, Scamper, Stingray, Lindsay Sears, Martha, all those special horses that have won over the years, just great horses. Now, is it a combination? Sure, and that's the second part of it. But again, not all horses can have 1D speed. Some are maxed out, perfect runs, gorgeous runs, no matter who runs them, in the 2D or the 3D, but there are some horses, 4D, 5D, that could absolutely be better. I've seen it happen a lot with one rider, they clock in the 3D, and then you put someone more confident with more experience and they run in the 1D. So, but to me, it depends. Like, do you want to pay someone to show your horse, or are you trying to do it because you love it, because you enjoy it? And there's nothing wrong with winning the 5D or the 4D or the 3D. Not everybody is going to be a 1D horse or 1D rider. It's really challenging, obviously, and it just, something that you don't have to want. It's just a lot of people crave that, and it's 1D or bust, and that's great too. But yes, that's a yes and no answer. So sometimes the horse is just maxed, and sometimes a rider with more experience or more assertiveness can definitely get more out of a horse. So that's it. And then I've seen also riders that will run 1D and 3D because maybe like they're not feeling their best, or they're concerned the horse might struggle in this ground or something, or they don't want their horse to get hurt, or they're just riding a little more cautious, and not just going for it, in it to win it. And that can make a difference of 1 Mississippi, 1 second. So keep that in mind as well. So hit barrels, leaving or going in, how to fix that. So for me, hitting barrels leaving is pretty much an easy fix. A lot of times it's caused by riders looking up and picking up or pulling their hand over the barrel too soon and letting that horse roll back out of the barrel, especially second barrel. So the more you can keep them four-wheel drive and moving around the barrel is good, especially looking at spot 2 and 3, keeping your hand like flat knuckle low and forward in the middle of their neck by their mane. Driving with your feet, you can even use your inside leg, not just by the front cinch, but the back cinch to keep them going a little bit more forward. Woodrow, no. Sorry, puppies are playing. But you can keep them more four-wheel drive. Then you could also work on them with drills. Like I like to do all lefts, all rights, where you go around the barrel 2 full times in a 5 to 10 foot circle at a walk, trot, and a lope. And you can do it 2 hand and 1 hand if you're more advanced. And then of course, I like to do circles and true turns, and I keep them laterally bending in four-wheel drive as they go around the barrel the first time, spots 1, 2, and 3, and just keep that four-wheel drive. That's really important. Some drills that are good for that are doubles around the barrels, like I mentioned. That's very important to do. The cues that I just mentioned are important, and that's for hitting barrels leaving, okay? You tend to be horses that want to roll back or V a barrel instead of maintain that four-wheel drive. And people always ask me, and that's actually one of the questions, is a rollback style better than circling a barrel? And honestly, it truly depends on the individual horse. So, but to finish answering, like hitting a barrel going in, that's usually caused by riders looking in and lifting their hand too soon, or horses anticipating and wanting to turn at their shoulder. So for that situation, I like to do like D pattern, where you're having to go past the barrel, or inline barrels. Even all lefts, all rights is great for anticipation. I also love to do straighter longer, where you ride their hip past the barrel and give them not more pocket going in, but going deeper past the barrel, riding their hip a good 5 or 10 feet past the barrel. And that takes some of the anticipation out. So straighter, longer, even in and outs are really good, where they're thinking, hey, there's a barrel, pick up my shoulder, give more room going in and around the barrel, maintain forward motion. So those would be things I could do on the barrels for a tune-up if I hit barrels going in. So that would be a good idea. The next question, let me go to this question and I'll talk about the rollbacks versus circles. The next question about hand cues in a turn for horses that are novice horses or free runners when you're used to a push horse. So that's really hard. If you've never trained your own horse, or you have a open horse versus a open horse is more of a usually more push style, and you do less, and they'll turn a barrel. They crave to rate and turn on their own, and they want to do it, and you have to just drive them more. But on a novice horse, maturity horse, they're kind of waiting for you to say when, or a free runner might be waiting for you to say rate more. So it definitely changes up your cues. So your rider cues will change. 3 or 4 strides from the barrel, you might sit and do a 2-hand bump and say whoa. And then as you get closer to the barrel, you might do an inside rein bump and say here. And you might bump and release to start your turn, and bump and release to finish your turn on that novice horse. And when I say bump, I'm meaning sit back, tilt your pelvic bone under, sit on your pockets. Make sure that you are thinking about that collection, that rate going in, and then asking them to turn by sitting a little deeper, starting to turn your shoulder and hip, looking at your next quarter turn. And you always want to look a quarter turn ahead, but your inside hand will come up and back an inch towards your saddle horn as you sit deep going in, and then you might give it back to keep forward motion around the barrel, and then you might pick it up again and use a little more inside hip and shoulder, bring your hand back towards your saddle horn to finish your turn. So it's kind of like keeping your elbows bent and your hand just coming back towards your saddle horn an inch or two. Where people get in trouble is they'll pull their hand down to their thigh, or they'll pull it over the barrel, or they'll cross their withers, or they'll keep their hand forward and not help their horse at all, or they'll just pull on their horses. So those are things you have to pay attention to. The key word is to never pull, but to use give and take pressure. So that is the most important thing to keep in mind. Bump and release, but they're waiting for you to say when. So I do like to go 2 hands between and 1 hand around on young horses or free runners. Excuse me, I think that's really important as well. Let's see here. So the next question was about futurities. They wanted to know how to get started in futurities and the rules, etc. And honestly, every association is a little bit different. So I would go to their website. Like if you're looking at Old Fort Smith, I mean, their entry fees are like almost $700, and you have to send them in advance, and your horse has to be peaking at that point and hoping you're not lame or anything else when it comes time to compete. But so if you go to Barrel Futurities of America, you can look at that. But every state might have their own futurities too that they have with their associations or super shows. In Florida, we have Tour Champions, is what I did a lot with my futurity horses. I ran as 5-year-olds, and not all futurities allow 5-year-olds. Some will allow 4-year-olds only, so you have to find out those rules. Some will let them start competing their end of their 3-year-old year, November, December. So again, you have to ask about those rules. But the key is, if you want to compete, because they only have one futurity year, one novice horse year, depend on your association rules. And sometimes just super shows will add futurity side pots, and they might have different rules too. But the key is to never have entered them before that year of maturity. So meaning that you cannot do you can do exhibitions, you can do timed onlys, but you cannot enter for money or even prizes, blue ribbons, trophies, nothing, because that would be competing before their maturity year. So for sure you'd want to pick one association in your state that you want to go to, or pick 2 or 3 during the year that you want to hit. But again, futurities are a challenge because you have to know if your horse can handle it. For the long haul, you should be making a horse that can last you 10, 20 years. You shouldn't be pushing them so hard their futurity year and then blow them up and they're ruined. So you want to go at a pace they can handle. So if you cannot commit to really putting a lot into their 2 and 3-year-old years of basics at 2 and pattern at 3 to run at 4, then I would suggest holding them till they're 5 and do basics at 3 and pattern at 4 and compete at 5 if you want to do futurities. But again, pick the association, look up the rules. Most of them will state the rules on their websites, and I would do that. But again, do not enter them. You can do time runs and exhibitions, but not enter for money, ribbons, buckles, trophies, nothing until that time. So yeah, that would be my suggestions there. And I love doing that because for me, I would hold my horses and come out because I wanted my horses running 1D, 2D when they came out. I didn't want to come out and start in the 5D and work my way up. But that was because my horses were more my business card and I wanted their first year to come out good. But again, everybody has their own way of doing it. Some people will, not really have them ready and just start entering and see what happens. But really have a solid foundation on these horses, because a foundation is key. When you start adding speed, things will fall apart. And going back to basics is everything on getting that horse's mind back and getting them back to working correctly. And it's also easier to add education with speed when you have a good foundation. So I personally would not skip steps and I wouldn't rush them. So I hope that helps. So which style do I think is better, rollback or 4-wheel drive circling a barrel? In all honesty, you can see winning styles at everything. I will train every horse to be 4-wheel drive, meaning I want them to shorten their stride, collect going into their turns, but keep forward motion and have lateral bend. But there might be a point where this horse shows me they're going to excel as more of a rollback horse or a stiffer style horse. Sometimes you even get a fronty Indy type horse. There's very few horses that are really successful on the front end, but you will see a lot more stiffer rollback styles. Like for instance, like Sister with Haley Kendall. She's a stiffer, more of a rollbacky type horse. She's got one fluid motion in and out, and she can decelerate and accelerate really quickly. Boom, boom. She can get in and out. Sherry Cervi Stingray was a lot like that. More stiffer, but can really get in and get out. But you see other horses that are more 4-wheel drive, like Lindsay's Jarvis or Trisha's Adios, or possibly if you go back and look at Martha, Lindsay Sears' horse at the NFR, that horse was really interesting. She would keep her nose bent the whole time and maintain bendy 4-wheel drive around a barrel. And she had a cool style. But if you look at like Bozo and Scamper, again, more 4-wheel drive styles. But what they all have in common, whether they're stiff, bendy, or 4-wheel drive or rollbacky, is that really smooth motion. Like you don't really see any hang time. They don't really stall. But I will say rollback horses and front end horses are a little harder to ride and less forgiving than your horse that maybe is your horse that's 4-wheel drive, because timing has to be perfect. If you push a rollback horse too hard, you might stall behind it or get by one. And if you back off too soon, you might lose forward motion and catch one. And same, they're a little harder on their bodies when they're not as balanced 4-wheel drive as well. They're harder on their hocks. If they're rollback horses, are harder on their front end. If they're front endy, that kind of thing. So yeah, so those are the main things. I still did not get to talk about, because I've already been talking 30 minutes, I didn't get to talk about picking the right horse for you. So I would suggest going to my training notebook and reading chapter 1. Also, it's an audio book in the members only website, and it's chapter 1, so you could listen to it as well. Let's see here. So talking about burnout, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I couldn't get enough. I couldn't train enough. I couldn't compete enough. I couldn't learn enough. I was healthy. I was strong. I had energy. I just went. But there came a time in the I don't know, 2000s, maybe like 2012, 13. I just got burnt out. I think the heartbreak, the lamenesses, the disappointments, with whether it be courses or clients or whatever. Also the competition, like my business was a competition, trying to always keep my barn full and keep my business going, of training horses and clinics and lessons. And then on the weekend was competition and wanting to do well, so I looked good for my business. And it was like 6 days a week. It was competition. Sunday was maybe my only day to be with the family and maybe go fishing or scalloping or just relax and not be in that competitive mindset of, goal setting and doing well. And I think there became a time I just got burnt out. I mean, I did train horses and compete for 27 years, and there was a time where it wasn't as much fun. So I think if that ever happens to you, you have to remember your why. You have to remember that little girl that fell in love with horses, that little girl that maybe, or a little boy that fell in love with horses, or timed events. You have to maybe take a break, take the summer off, do something new, go trail riding, do something different with your horse. Try something else. Just give yourself a break when you need it, because honestly, awards, buckles, saddles, they just collect dust. When you look back, for me, it's the memories of time spent with my horses, family, friends. Those things hold on to you more, special runs, than necessarily the trophies or money or awards that you get. So it's all fun and exciting then, but when you look back after 30 some years, that's the stuff that sticks out more. So keep that in mind when you feel yourself getting burnt out. I think it's normal for everybody to burn out, and it doesn't have to be with barrel racing. If you have a day job, you probably can't wait to get to the barn and go compete on the weekend if you work in an office all week long. But but you could still have burnout because you've got your career, maybe your spouse, maybe your children, and then you've got the ranch and the horses, and there's just so much to do, and you just burn out. So if you ever feel yourself it's not fun, take a break, mix it up. Less is more. Keep life more simple and peaceful where you can. Cut out things you don't need to deal with or do, and get back to finding your joy and your peace. And I think that's balance. That's what we're always trying to find, is that happy medium. So, and there is a time to be hungry and drive and go for it, but there's also a time to say, okay, we need to have a little balance here, because it can really struggle to have balance when have these big goals with your personal horses and businesses and stuff, to keep that balance with your family as well. It's a hard thing. Marriage is hard, being a mom is hard, being a dad is hard, just finding balance in everything. So I've been talking quite a while, so I think I'm going to wrap it up there. I wanted to mention a couple more things. I do want to thank Coat Defense. They are my clinic sponsors. This stuff is awesome. Great for rain rot or any fungus on your horses. Dogs too. I've got the dogs shampoo and the dog powder. The powder, the paste, it's great. This company, Majesty Wafers, is out of Central Oregon. They have a lot of cool little wafers with different things in it. This one happens to have joint stuff in it, but there's a lot of really good stuff in there. So those are my clinic sponsors. My clinics start back in October. And then, of course, Dynamite you can get through me wholesale. One of my favorite oils, frankincense, doTERRA, I can get for you wholesale. So anyways, those are my sponsors, along with Creative Concepts. She does all my flyers and logos and all that stuff. That's Blue Creek Photography. And Florida Equine Athlete. I write articles for her, so check them out too. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let's see, as always, just remember, if you're feeling yourself not keeping God first or keeping that peace, that's a time to just do some reflection. And I find that getting out on my horse by myself is the best way to really get quiet time. A lot of people feel the need to be on the phone or ride with other people, But a truly really good way to get to build that relationship with your horse is that time alone with your horse, whether it just be trail riding, exercising, of course competing too, but those are all really good times. The times that I find the easiest to pray and talk to God as well is when I'm riding my horse, and do a lot of soul searching during those time frames. So anyways, thanks for tuning in this week, you guys. As always, ride with heart, and God bless. Thank you.